Tonight on KGW News, rallying against federal cuts and layoffs.
I believe we have a future worth fighting for. I believe that we can make a difference.
Why some protesters say a lot more than their jobs is on the line. Also tonight, never before seen video that shows a man with a gun in the moments leading up to a brazen downtown attack. Plus,
none of us want to wake up on mornings hearing that a house burnt down.
Why neighbors who've seen someone setting fire to garbage cans fear the worst is still to come. Then, where ambulance workers could go on strike in less than 2 weeks. And later, we take you inside a new neighborhood beacon of hope.
We're all hopeful for Portland, and we're here to celebrate that.
Good evening, everyone. We want to get straight to breaking news in North Portland, where a person has been hit and killed by a MAX train in what appears to be a tragic accident. Alma McCarty's live near the Delta Park station. So, Alma, walk us through what we know so far.
David, like you said, investigators believe at this point that it is just that, a tragic accident that happened here around 8:30 this evening. Now, deputies have roped off the area, although we are seeing them begin to take the crime tape down at this point, although we are not sure when the station will be reopened. They do say that someone was trying to cross over the tracks here between the train cars and got stuck. And that is when they were killed as the train was leaving the station here in North Portland. Now, the medical examiner will determine the ultimate cause of death. However, deputies say at this point it appears that he died from blunt force trauma to the head. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says that happened while he was stuck, on one of the couplers. Those are the parts of the train that connect the cars just to the north of this station. Although he was not run over, another driver of a different train spotted his body on the tracks. The operator of that train that he was stuck on did not realize that he was on there, according to the officials. Now, at the point service was shut down in this area after 8:30 in the evening, I should say, the MAX Yellow Line specifically, while investigators did their work, TriMet says that shuttle buses have been serving riders between Lombard and Expo Center. Certainly a very traumatizing scene, and officials out here say that their thoughts are with the families of those involved.
Unfortunately, he made a really poor decision trying to get to the train to go in between the cars. Obviously, it's very dangerous, and we discourage people from doing that.
At this point, we do not know the victim's name or their identity, but we will keep you posted once we learn that information. David, back to you.
Well, thank you, Alma. Stay with KGW for continuing coverage of the breaking news. We'll update you as we learn more on air on KGW.com and on our streaming platform, that is KGW+. Now to growing calls to stop federal layoffs and the political players behind them as protesters gathered at the federal building in Northeast Portland this evening, many of who recently found out they were fired. Catherine Cook was there and spoke with some of them tonight. Catherine.
David, federal cuts hit the Bonneville Power Administration the hardest. They lost about 20% of their workforce, but there are others. We talked with a Forest Service employee who just lost his job and drove 5.5 hours to stand in protest.
No king, no crown, we won't back down.
Outside the federal building in Northeast Portland, a message to the Trump administration as mass federal layoffs continue.
You don't need to come in with a sledgehammer and knock everything down and disrupt people's lives and take their jobs away from them.
Patty Espy is a retired nurse. She's shaken by layoffs at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and National Institutes of Health. The federal agencies have lost about 5,200 workers as diseases like bird flu and COVID-19 bear down.
I worked back in the day when AIDS first came. And if it wasn't for the CDC and the National Institute of Health to help us, we didn't know what it was. We didn't know how to take care of the patients.
I was fired yesterday morning.
Dane Gallish drove 5.5 hours to be here. He was a botanist at the Immigrant Creek Ranger District in the Malheur National Forest, one of 5 people fired there so far.
My former coworkers who are showing up every morning to serve their country at the ranger station are living in fear, and they can't come and talk to you guys about this. So someone's got to.
It's scary. There's fear of backlash.
Rachel, a federal healthcare worker, helped organize this rally. She believes these cuts are impacting all Americans, not just the federal employees losing their jobs.
We are here today to remind the public of who we are, to celebrate what we do, and to let this country know that we do want to serve.
The federal building behind these protesters is home to the Bonneville Power Administration. Since January, the Trump administration has cut more than 400 BPA jobs. Over the weekend, they restored 30 of those positions. Jobs which sources tell KGW could impact reliability or other important functions of BPA. Those here say it's a nod to the danger and uncertainty of these massive federal cuts.
And it's not my job, it's not the National Forest System. I am more concerned about our democracy.
It could be a while before we see the true scope of these federal cuts as they keep rolling out. In the meantime, protesters are planning more demonstrations. That includes an economic blackout on the 28th, targeting corporations that have scaled back on DEI. David.
A lot to keep track of and some very real consequences. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, let's get a first check of your forecast now with Chief Meteorologist Matt Sfino. Matt, it sounds like we've got at least a short, dry stretch on the way here.
We do. The stars are out tonight. We've cleared off. Fog has yet to form. It's not a bad night at all here in the valleys. Up in the Cascades, there's Timberline. It's snowing again. At least the temperature's dropped on down to 25 degrees, so it's gotten colder. It's 5 inches of new snow. Pretty good ski morning coming up tomorrow. Get up and enjoy, because it's going to get really wet up there as we go to the days ahead. On downtown Portland right now, as I said, we've had a lot of clear skies, some fog forming, 42 degrees here. Down in Salem, it's a little bit warmer at 48 with a clear sky down the mid-valley there as well. So tomorrow, clouds or fog in the morning, and then it begins to break up. We should be partly sunny, get up to 52 tomorrow afternoon. And the dry weather continues into the first part of Friday. After that, we get some showers. Then it really gets wet as we go to Saturday night and Sunday. We'll talk about the rain amounts. And look, we've got 60s in the forecast, too, later next week. David?
A lot to look forward to. Thank you, Matt. New at 11, new security video of an attempted murder in downtown Portland. That video from 2023 was released by the Multnomah County DA's office today, just hours after a judge sentenced the shooter to 17.5 years in prison for charges that include attempted murder. Alma McCarty with that story.
This is a very violent case from March of 2023.
Video from that early morning incident near Old Town, captured by Chevron gas station cameras, first shows a silver car and the passenger getting out with a gun. A second angle shows what happened next.
And basically ran into a party bus and fired at least 6 rounds into that party bus and shot someone and seriously injured him.
Officers found that victim unconscious behind Dante's on Burnside, with gunshot wounds to the stomach, thigh, and left arm. Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez says as the victim recovered in the hospital, law enforcement worked to identify the suspect. A month after the incident, police arrested Dwayne Driver. Then, in December 2024, a jury found Driver guilty on multiple charges, including attempted murder. And it wasn't the first time.
You have an individual that's now been convicted of attempted murder twice, and that's outrageous and unacceptable. And so, of course, we're going to be seeking the maximum sentence when you have someone who is engaged in such violent behavior and endangered our community in such a way.
That previous conviction in Washington County dates back to 2014. Prosecutors say he was behind bars for more than 7 years. Wednesday's sentence carries more weight.
In a situation like this, when you're dealing with someone who they've been to prison and then they go out and do the same thing, it really just shows a heightened danger to the community. And so it's one that we really need to take seriously.
In Portland, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Alma doing double duty for us tonight. Appreciate it. All right, to get you caught up on tonight's other headlines, in Washington County, unionized workers with ambulance provider AMR have rejected a contract offer and voted to authorize a strike. The union plans to file a 10-day strike notice tomorrow, which means workers could hit the picket lines as soon as March 2nd. We have reached out to AMR for comment. We'll update you when we hear back. In Central Oregon, a husband and wife from a well-known skiing family have been identified as the victims of Monday's avalanche. The Deschutes County Sheriff says Terrence and Susan Shearshaw were backcountry skiing north of Mount Bachelor Monday at the time of that slide. Their bodies were recovered yesterday. Both were in their 50s. The Shearshaw family has been involved in the Oregon skiing community for decades, since Terrence's grandparents opened Ben's first ski shop in the 1930s. And Oregon Senator Ron Wyden is throwing his support behind a bill to raise the age to buy assault weapons. The Age 21 Act, as it's called, would change the legal purchasing age for those firearms and high-capacity magazines from 18 to 21. The senator and other supporters say people who aren't old enough to buy alcohol shouldn't be allowed to buy assault firearms either. There would be limited exceptions for those in law enforcement or the military. Also on Capitol Hill, former Republican Congresswoman Lori Chavez DeRemer fielded some tough questions today from senators during her confirmation hearing for Labor Secretary. For some Republicans, Chavez DeRemer's history as a pro-union lawmaker is a bit of a concern. Senator Rand Paul and others questioned her support for a pro-union bill when she was in Congress. Today, she said she no longer supports key elements. Meanwhile, Democrats try to determine whether she still supports unions. Washington Senator Patty Murray asking if Chavez DeRemer would stand against what she described as President Trump's illegal cuts to federal funding and workers.
I have not talked to the president on this issue, and I
So
do
you
not
won't
believe
commit to following the law if the president tells you to violate it?
I will commit to following the law, and I do not believe the president would ever ask me to break the law.
Murray has not committed to supporting Chavez DeRemer, but Senator Ron Wyden has made up his mind today, saying, quote, her reversal is blatantly anti-worker and calls into question whether she'd be anything more than another tool of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, end quote. Developing tonight, neighbors in St. John's are on high alert after a recent string of fires that appear to have been intentionally set. Police say it is too early to tell if they are connected. The locals say that does seem to be the case. On January 14th, someone intentionally set 3 garbage bins on North Lombard on fire, along with a dumpster on North Catlin. Since then, police received another report of a waste bin on fire and a fire at All Nations Church that scorched the doors. Security video showing a man on a bike riding up, and within moments, the bins going up in flames.
It makes me feel afraid. You know, every time I put my cans out now, I'm like, is he going to set my cans on fire? My cans usually go underneath a tree. Is that going to catch my tree on fire? What else will that catch on fire?
Police say the man in the video is a suspect. Neighbors met tonight to share information and to commit to staying vigilant.